Hey there, my name is Danny Leibrandt and I'm the founder of Pest Control SEO, where we grow pest control companies with SEO. And today we have another episode of the Pest Control SEO podcast. And for the second time, we have Dennis Yu. So glad to have Dennis. I actually happen to be in Vegas again, and we are traveling to a conference in Seattle where we are both speaking. So excited for that and so excited to have Dennis on the podcast again. If you guys don't know Dennis, total G in the digital marketing space, knows everything about SEO, Facebook ads, everything. We already did do a podcast, like I said, so if you haven't already watched that podcast before, please go watch that one before this one so that you can get some context, because now we're gonna go deep into all these topics, specifically on local. So again, Dennis, so glad to have you. And again, if you could please, give an introduction of yourself for people who may not know who you are somehow.
I'm Dennis Yu, I'm Danny's mentor, and I'm a search engine engineer. And I love to see people like Danny grow their agency according to clear standards, and everything needs to be measurable because I'm an engineer. And coming from the side of the search engines, I'm looking at it differently than these SEO experts. So I love doing these things with Danny where we're talking about what the search engines and what Google is actually looking for.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, Dennis. So first thing I wanted to ask you is, I know you do audits all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You have audits scheduled, almost every day with various local businesses, maybe some e-commerce brands.
Yeah.
When you look at a website and look at someone's overall digital marketing, what's the first thing you look for?
First thing I want to see is, are they reputable? Because I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, if I'm Google or whatnot, do they satisfy EEAT? So we audited a pest control company yesterday, and they're a pretty big one. They have 200 technicians, they have many locations, like 9 locations, and we can clearly see, based on all these signals, that they actually do what they do. From the reviews, to the keywords that they rank on, to the experience that they have, to all these things that show that they seem to be pretty good at what they do. I mean, the last thing you want to do is go to someone's website and find the links don't work, or it loads slow, or it goes to a YouTube channel that doesn't exist. These are all basic things. Think about when you are evaluating a new restaurant you want to go to, or doing business with somebody. You're going to look them up on LinkedIn. You're going to look at their website. And those are the same things I'm looking for, because I'm pretending if I'm another user, what kind of signals can I publicly see?
So what should companies be focusing on then? Should they be trying to get the best website in place? Should they be trying to get as many reviews as possible, or is it a bit of everything?
I think it starts from amplifying the thing that's working the best for you. So if you are Tommy Melo and you have your vans all over the place in 27 cities, 27 states, and these vans with the red logo and Tommy like this everywhere in the billboards, that's worked really well for him. So he should do more of that. And because of that, he buys more TV, he buys more radio, he ranks better in Google. He's doing more of what is driving him business. So I can't just give you a one-size-fits-all answer like, oh, you should do LSA ads, or you should do coupons, or you should do like Super Bowl ads. No. Look inside your CRM. What has driven you the most provable phone calls? Where is it? Referrals? Is it your GMB? And whatever's working well, 80-20, do more of that. It's like digital marketing. If I could tell people one thing, I'd start with that instead of like trying to do everything that your neighbor told you was a good idea.
Awesome, love it. Yeah, most people get FOMO, or they see the next hot thing. Oh, you have to hop into Google ads, you have to hop into Yelp ads. There's a million different platforms you can advertise on. When really, if you already have a platform that's working well, you should just put more money towards it.
It's not even just a platform; it's any technique that's working well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, or maybe it's a particular product. So we have one friend who's a doctor and he does liposuction, but he does like 10 other things as well. And when we met, he said, well, I want to do this and this and this, and I have this new machinery, and I have this thing that for guys that removes this sweat from their armpits, and that's all cool. But last I checked, doctor, 90% of your revenue comes from liposuction. So what should we focus on?
Definitely. You talked about commercials a little bit. I wanted to hear your opinion on this, because we actually don't talk much about it. Usually, we're more SEO, maybe social media marketing
stuff,
What are your thoughts on commercial, like TV commercials, billboards, other kinds of marketing besides the marketing that we usually talk about?
Well, the offline marketing is actually some of the most effective marketing I've ever seen. And people will think, oh, but I can get, 10,000 impressions on YouTube for a tenth that price. Yeah, you can, but you can't compare those apples to apples. Things like you may have seen OTT, where you think that's only for big companies, but did you know you could grab like the local barbershop or the restaurant right next to your closest store and run ads just on those TVs there? Or when you're waiting for your tires to get changed or your oil to be adjusted or whatever it is, you can buy space on those TVs right there. In the same way that you would buy space on a Google ad or Facebook ad, you can buy inventory everywhere. And I think of it as just inventory, but sometimes it's harder to measure. So I have a friend, his name's Daryl Isaacs, and he's probably the most famous person in the state of Kentucky. Half the billboards in the state are his. You can imagine how much he spends. He's got the vanity phone numbers, the 2222222, like that kind of, like those phone numbers cost $1 million. But it works for him, listen carefully, because he already is well known, he already has strong branding, he already takes good care of his customers. So when you already have a good reputation and you serve more than just one little city, then things like newspaper, TV, outdoor, which is billboards, yellow pages even, are an amplifier of what's already there. So typically those businesses are over $10 million. They have multiple locations within a city. So instead of just, Orange County and LA, you've got like 8 locations in the Los Angeles metro region. Then when you do coverage of radio, or when you're doing mailings and you're dropping that mailing multiple times, which we know is necessary for frequency, that's a big boy play. When you buy billboards around where your stores are or where the competitors are especially, like I've seen people, they have such big egos, they buy like right next to where their competitor is because they see where the billboard is. I'm not saying do that. I mean, unless you just want to like irritate your friends. But that kind of marketing is more effective, higher ROI, more memorable, like a Super Bowl ad, or I don't even want to say Super Bowl, like a TV ad. That when you're sitting there, assuming there's no TiVo or skipping past it, you're going to sit and watch that 30-second commercial, and that has way more impact than a banner ad on YouTube that's skippable. It's completely different, and so we call this digital dimes and offline dollars. Like you can't compare the two. So a lot of small guys are like, well, okay, I want to focus on a billboard. I want to focus on getting my vans all wrapped with my logo and all that. And that's a mistake because you have to have an existing brand. You have to already have enough reputation that the offline media is a stacker on top of that. So we love this. Like Jack Daniels, don't judge me, was a great client of ours for years, and we would decide which bands to sponsor. They would send me a list. Imagine this, Danny. At the beginning of the year, they'd send me a list of like 200 bands, and they'd say, which of these bands do you think that we should sponsor? And our team would run an analysis saying, here's the overlap between Jack Daniels versus, Justin Bieber or this country music star, and here's how big they are, and here's where the values seem to align, and here's how much we think the brand alignment is worth. We did this for Nike, we did it for Adidas, we did it for Red Bull, Starbucks, all these other guys, because they would then use that in their offline media. They would use that in their programming. WWE, which is Vince McMahon and all the wrestling, they used that data we had, that digital data, to inform what happened in the other channels, like in WrestleMania and in different shows. So that's a roundabout way to say I'm a really big fan of offline media, but generally get to over $10 million a year, be beyond just one small city, but the whole regional metro, where you can afford to spend money over 6 months to a year to get enough frequency. If you don't run frequency on radio, TV, billboard, it's not going to work. You can't just run an ad one time, like one mailer, and expect that to work.
Yeah, gotcha. So you said that you need a great brand in place. How does a company build a great brand? I know you've scaled several companies, agencies, all kinds of different companies. What does a great brand look like, and how can, let's say, a local business accomplish that?
Great brand's easy. You Google them. Google Danny Leibrandt and see that there's a knowledge panel. Google your name, Google your company name. And most people think personal branding is about the Lamborghini or the Money Bro Twitter stuff. The brand is what other people have to say about you. So if I Google your company name, I should be able to pull up all kinds of reviews on Yelp and Google and Facebook and YouTube. And if I sign up for Google Alerts, I could see anyone who's mentioning you, good or bad. That's your brand. Your brand, mathematically, is the sum of all the positive and negative interactions from your customers, your employees, your community, anyone who knows who you are. It's not just your customers, and it definitely is not what you say about yourself.
So let's say a company is really struggling. Maybe they have 3 out of 5 stars on Google. Maybe someone has tried to ruin their reputation. How can they try to gain that reputation and brand back?
So most people think of this as a marketing problem. So I can give you tons and tons of examples where home service companies have come to us saying, hey, can you help us with our marketing? Our sales have gone down, and I see that they're rated like 3.2 stars or something really bad. And I'll say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. You have an operational issue. You have to fix the operations. So no amount of massaging is going to fix the broken bone. You have to fix the core of the issue. So if you have a reputation issue, there's basically 2 kinds. One is your operation sucks and you just don't take good care of your customers, and that is why it's showing up. You look in the mirror and you see someone who's fat. Well, it's not the mirror's fault. The second one is there's someone trying to destroy you. And all of us have had the experience where there's some unreasonable customer who just wants to tell the world about how bad you are, you've done everything, but they are just totally unreasonable. Or there's someone for some reason that has a vendetta against you. You know, sometimes that happens. There's ways to do reputation management. The best way is you protect your name in advance, right? The best thing is you get your reputation working now before this thing happens. I've had friends of mine where, I should probably not mention their names, but one of them is very famous, and he got in trouble because his company, when they raised money to go into all the different grocery stores for his product, I won't tell you what the product is, the money came from the mob. He didn't know that at the time. And then he and all these other people got indicted for basically mob money laundering. So if you search this guy's name, you would just see largest, in US history, largest mob bust ever, like all these criminal proceedings, just really bad. And I've had friends of mine where, they're the CEO of a high profile company, and their son gets in trouble for drunk driving or murders somebody.
Yeah.
Good grief. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten that phone call, like 2 a.m., Dennis, can you help? My son has done this thing, and now when you Google my name, it shows that my son did this, and then they go on and on about how their son is not guilty. I'm like, look, I'm not here to judge whether your son is guilty. I'm here to take care of the reputation issue, right? I'm not here to argue the facts about, well, really it was self-defense. Like, I'll help you. Just I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm trying to help you, okay? So you fix that reputation management problem you can't remove negative search results. I mean, there's a technical way where like you sue Google and claim there's a whole nother angle there. But the best thing and the only way to do reputation management is when there's a negative search result, you have to put other things ahead of those negative search results. So if you have enough, some people call these citations or information about you, every blog post, every tweet about you, every webinar you have, every podcast, every positive testimonial, every piece of content about you, we want to get that above that negative piece of content. And that's what reputation management is. It's not a game of removing, it's a game of pushing something down to, the 30th result or whatnot. I'll tell you one example I'm allowed to talk about. So my buddy Harrison Gevirtz, he started with me when he was 14, so even younger than you. And now it's like 16 years later, and he's a super successful .com, tycoon, huge companies that he has. And he got sued. Rich people get sued all the time. That's how you know you're successful. He got sued last year in this Bitcoin scam. And he had nothing to do with it. Other people tried to involve him. But because there were these lawsuits that were high profile, because it was a lot of money, it's like $1.7 billion. Then his name, if you searched his name, it showed up there. And he wasn't working on his personal brand because he already made a whole ton of money, and then he sort of like went more kind of behind the scenes, which I totally get. A lot of successful entrepreneurs, they don't want to be out there, so they've just been running the business and it's not their face. But then he didn't protect his name. And so in order for us to push those negative results all the way down, because it was on ftc.gov and SEC, like all these government and like Wall Street Journal, I mean, it's going to be hard to push down the Wall Street Journal, right? So what we did was we pulled together all the business partners and companies that he's done work with. We got him on a bunch of podcasts, including mine, to talk about how as a 14-year-old he made his first $1 million. Who cares how he made $1 million when he was 14? He used his dad's Amex Black Card, and off the points we traveled all over the world. But we talked about stuff like that, all kinds of fun stories, and it had nothing to do with racketeering and a Bitcoin scam or things like that. It was just to get his brand out there. And we talked about some of the companies that he owns. We talked about what pay-per-call is, which is what he's really well known. He built a whole software called Ringba about that, so we talked about Ringba. He invited me to a conference where he was the major sponsor, and they had a big booth and all these people there, and they're giving out t-shirts, and I interviewed him there, and other people interviewed him saying, hey, Arison, how did you become the #1 player in pay-per-call? How did you build a whole network of people around this? How are you going to take down CallRail, who's the biggest general call tracking system? Of course, theirs is more sophisticated because they have a pay-per-call, not just like tracking calls, right? And I interviewed him about things like that. So if you Google his name, Harrison Gewirtz, you're going to see 20, 30, 40 results. And most people are not going to go all the way down to the very bottom when then you start to see like, oh, he was named in a lawsuit and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so the best thing is get those things in place now before that stuff happens, because it often takes a few months to get that content there, to start linking together. Of course, we promoted it for $1 a day, not to make him famous, but because we wanted to send that signal to Google so Google could see like, yep, people actually thought that the content was helpful. So we made actually good content, not just like a bunch of fake articles written by ChatGPT.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the flip side, and even in that scenario, I'd like you to go more in depth of how they could get those brand mentions and links. So, because I feel like most local businesses and really any businesses in particular, like I still have no idea how to get those mentions. Like how do I make videos? Who do I contact? Where do I post it? But what should these people do? Give me some actionable steps.
So let's say you're a local pest control company in Greenville, South Carolina. And do people really want to talk about bugs and insects and cockroaches and squirrels? And no. But if you live in Greenville, South Carolina, then you probably know the best places to go hiking. You probably go to the Guitar Center where you buy all, like I've been to the Guitar Center in Greenville, South Carolina, and spent $10,000 buying stuff for employees who did a really good job. I'm like, yep, as I promised, you hit this goal. I'm going to spend $10,000 and buy the amplifier and the guitars and the strings and the synthesizers. And you probably have a favorite restaurant. You probably have other people that have related sorts of businesses. Maybe a roofer, an electrician, these other people. And you know these people, you meet these people, you come into contact with them, you go to Costco and you see them on the weekend, and you say, hey, Danny, I see you got a new car. How do you like that new Tahoe, right? And then you could capture that as a 15-second video on your phone. That's it. It's not a whole podcast. It doesn't have to be an hour. For some reason, people think videos need to be an hour. Just like meetings on Zoom need to be an hour. It doesn't need to be an hour. This is the #1 best-selling book in social media. And it's on TikTok. And the key here, it's not young adults singing and dancing. It's about us sharing one tip in 22 seconds. So if you want to get those local brand mentions, if you want to build that reputation in Greenville, South Carolina, in Gulf, Illinois, then make a bunch of 22-second videos saying, hey, there's a new development over here that just popped up, and I think there's going to be a lot of traffic here because the school's next door and the Costco's over here, or whatever it is. And you're just giving one tip. You're just talking about one thing for 22 seconds. Can you do that? And then do that with other people. Whenever you have a friend at dinner who says something really amazing, like we were at Fogo de Chao earlier today, my favorite place to eat Brazilian barbecue and all that, right? Amazing. And Danny could say, the trick is don't load up on the salad bar. They're going to try to trick you by making you eat salad and chicken, and that way you don't eat as much of the expensive stuff, which is the real meat.
Yeah.
And so I could say that in 22 seconds, right? It doesn't have to be this whole like YouTube production, TV camera crew kind of thing. Literally, you just need a cell phone, and you just need to point the thing at your face or point the thing at someone else's face if you don't want it to be your face, and capture those little stories. And that might seem at first awkward It's like, I don't want to do that at dinner. I just feel self-conscious. I don't want to show my face, or women especially, you know, the makeup and the lighting and, my left side is better than my right side. Or I promise you, none of that stuff matters. All that matters is you go about doing the things that you already are doing. This is not extra work. This is not you have to become Gary Vaynerchuk. This is not you as an Instagram influencer and you're always taking pictures of your food or being annoying like that. You never want to be that kind of person. You do it with your style. And if you're a good business person, and if you're watching this, I assume you are because you're following Danny, then you're constantly elevating other people in your network. You're elevating other businesses that you support. You're elevating the church that you go to on Sunday. You're elevating the soccer team. You're elevating mentors and mentees that you have. It's all a people business. I don't care if you're pest control or you're roofing. It's a people business. It's reputation. It's relationships. It's the who you are, your brand that you've built over many years. And this is not some esoteric Super Bowl branding, social media technical thing. This is, let's collect pieces of your life. Like, what's it like if I were to follow you around, which I wouldn't, that'd be creepy, but day to day, what would I see? And so you don't have to show everything. Like some people, they don't want to show their family or they're very private. That's fine too. But just of the things that you think are interesting and worthwhile, it's literally that simple. People overthink it. They make it complicated. They think you need a $6,500 camera like the one you're looking at here, which looks just as good as the one on the iPhone. They think you need all this unnecessary stuff, and all you need to do is make a short video, right? What's the best video, Danny?
1 minute video.
Yeah, it's a 1 minute video. It's the one you make. Why'd we call it a 1 minute video? Because if I'm trying to encourage you to run your first marathon, and that's 26.2 miles, that's a long way. Oh, it's so hard. I don't think I have the energy to try to run 26 miles today. Yeah, but can you go walk a mile? So, okay, I can't be this podcasting host and YouTube star. I don't want to be Mr. Beast or Gary Vaynerchuk. Yeah, but can you just make a 22-second video about one thing? You know, this is like one cool doodad I bring to all these different conferences, because often you go to a conference and they don't have the right thing to connect your laptop because they have these old computers. So this connects an HDMI to a USB-C. So I just shared one tip. Hey, if you're a public speaker, you should always carry one of these. And let me tell you what it is and what it does. That's it, right? Hold a cell phone. Hey, I'm here with Danny, and this is one thing we bring with us all the time. Right? I mean, can you do that? It's easy, right?
Yeah.
The biggest thing is overcoming that fear of judgment. That big red button to press record scares the heck out of me. I just don't want to do it. I'm going to make all these excuses. If you overcome that, you're going to solve your reputation, PR, social media, and digital marketing issues all in one go.
I'd like you to hammer this home because I know people are skeptical of this.
Yeah.
Let's say someone actually follows through with this. They're making 15-second to 1 minute videos. Maybe they're posting them every few days. What happens after they do this for 6 months to a year?
You don't even have to go 6 months to a year. What you need to do is do 1 or 2 batches. See, what you're not doing is committing to being some professional YouTuber where your whole life is making videos all day long. We have businesses to run. We have to take care of customers. We have to hire employees. We have to sleep. We have to have personal time. What I'm saying is every month, if you can spend just an hour going into Google, for example, and seeing what's the thing you want to rank on? Well, mosquitoes, Greenville, South Carolina. Oh, I want to rank on that. Okay. I do a search on that. And then below that, you're going to see that section that says people also ask. Well, how long does it take mosquitoes to germinate? And are they dangerous? And do they carry malaria? And are the chemicals toxic for dogs that we spray for mosquitoes? Or, all the questions people are asking. Just answer each of those questions. Maybe there's 5 or 6 of them. And as you click on more, it expands, so there's more. Maybe there's 10 or 15. Answer each of them in about a minute. So just once a month, answer those questions. Have other people on your team, other technicians, the front office girl, whoever, customers, anyone else in your community, answer those questions. And that's all you got to do. And do that for a couple months maybe. And then if you have a team of people or you have an agency like Danny that can repurpose those raw ingredients, that's where all the work is, okay? Making the videos is really easy, just an hour every month. You can do that. It's worth it. It satisfies all the things that are necessary to win in this AI-driven world, which is a whole nother thing. An hour from you is the business owner. Then VAs, agencies, other marketing team members, maybe you have a big in-house team, but they process all of that and post it and turn it into YouTubes and blog posts and tweets and Instagrams and LinkedIn's and all that kind of stuff. They take the same raw ingredients, those little 1-minute videos, and they repurpose it. They make different versions of it to suit how Twitter wants to see it, or LinkedIn, or YouTube, or TikTok, or Quora, all of that. So you don't have to be on all these other channels. You just have to answer those questions based on real experience. It's even better, like if you're out in the field, you're spraying, you are talking to a homeowner, you're driving in the van on the way to go see so-and-so. And if you can show the real experience as you're doing that stuff, that's all you have to do. Then other people can come in and handle the rest of that stuff. And I think that's the disconnect that people have when it comes to building a reputation or PR or social media. They think, this is so complicated, I'm just going to throw the whole thing over to Danny. And then Danny will say, because Danny's legitimate, he'll say, yes, I'll do everything within my power, but there's some ingredients that I need from you. The ones who are not legitimate will be like, yeah, I'll take your credit card. I'll take Amex. I'll take PayPal. Yeah, just pay me. And they don't say, I'll do this, but I need certain ingredients from you as part of this process. They'll say, oh yeah, you don't have to lift a finger. I'm just going to do my SEO thing and you don't have to worry about a thing. And meanwhile, they continue to charge your credit card every month.
Horrible. Something I wanted to ask you, going off of, co-creating content and potentially finding partners, what is your opinion on potentially, like a local business, partnering with an adjacent industry? So let's say
it's great.
Maybe pest control with roofer, or maybe landscaper with whoever.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's one of the best ways that you create synergistic content that helps Google see who you are and allows you to build this kind of link trust or link authority in a completely legit way. For example, we know that when people go out and look for houses, they usually first talk to the real estate agent, and they go drive around and see all these houses, and they're like, this one, that one, oh, I like this one costs more, this one's closer to the school, this one there, and they're talking about the houses. And then they see the mortgage broker. Okay, well, which of these houses can we really afford? Okay, we need a loan from the bank. We need to do all this paperwork, right? And so the real estate agents and mortgage brokers work together. In the same way that, the convalescent homes and the funeral homes, they work together, right? Or my favorite is the pool construction companies, and the landscapers, because those go hand in hand. Or the real estate agent when someone's moving into a new house, and then the bathroom remodelers. Because someone moves in, like, I don't like the color of the paint here, I want to make it, I need to the bathroom is old, I want to redo that, right? So all of these things naturally work together. For example, home services works together. Because when the pest control person comes in, they're going to notice, not just the cockroaches or whatever, they're going to notice, like, you know what, you've got a problem with your lawn, or I notice your water heater is out of date, the warranty's 3 years expired, so if the thing explodes, then you could be in trouble. You should talk to so-and-so who's an HVAC technician. And when the HVAC technician comes into the house, because there's all these people that come into the house, then they notice the garage door is broken, so they bring in their friend who's the garage door guy. And you're not doing it just for referrals. You're doing it by elevating these other people, saying, I know Tommy, he's been doing the garage door thing for a long time, and he and I, we'd like to you're not trying to do it as an endorsement. You're just trying to show that you are playing in this industry and you have relationships. That's all you're trying to do. And so that trust is picked up by users, and it's picked up by Google.
And does there need to be anything complex there? Do they need to,
No.
set up a contract and give percentages? Is it just, I will give you all the leads?
A lot of guys will set referrals, and in some cases, like personal injury attorneys and chiropractors, like those two go together because, they have a thing going on. Sometimes it's legal and sometimes it's not. But I think the best thing is there's people that you already know. Why not just you're already spending time with them. So just turn the camera on and record short little videos. Do the stuff you're already doing. Talk about the things you're already talking about, except for, like, you're bad-mouthing the other guy. But just talk about these things. And all we're doing is we're exposing to Google that you are a home services business, because you work with other home services businesses in Seattle, Washington, or whatever. What you're just trying to show is that you are connected to other people in that city in that region that you say you work in. And think about, like, my job at the search engine was, okay, someone types in Cleveland, Ohio pest control, right? And then all these guys show up. There's a bunch of people who just create random websites, and they're not from Cleveland. They're not connected in Cleveland. They've not done any jobs in Cleveland. But me as a search engine, this is what I literally had to do for years. I'm just telling you how frustrating this is. I'm trying to find anything, any kind of local signal to show that that business actually is in Cleveland. Why? Because 99.9% of the internet is spam. And I just need to show, like, okay, well, these looks like one of the technicians that work there stopped at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is there in Cleveland. Oh, okay, well, it sounds like it's probably a legitimate business. I just try to give me some clues, the proof to show me that you actually are in that city. You don't have to create thousands of videos, right? Just a few things to show that you're actually there. And don't just post a picture of the Cleveland Cavaliers stadium or whatever. Anybody can do that. Show real experiences. Show the other home service businesses in Cleveland, Ohio that you're with. Real pictures, real videos. Doesn't have just quick little, could even be 10 seconds long, right? That's it. It's so simple. Oh, but what about the lighting? And should it be horizontal and vertical? And should I use a 4K camera? And doesn't matter. Doesn't. Just get some kind of raw proof. That's it. It's that simple. Like, how do you misunderstand that?
Yeah.
Right?
I want to make a clarification here because I think people may get confused with this. Is the content for these company owners' personal brand or for their company, and do they need content for both?
If you are, say, under $1 million a year, you are the personal brand. If it's mainly you and a couple other technicians where you are the figurehead, whether you like it or not, your personal brand, your personal reputation is the company's reputation. As you start to get larger and you have other people that run operations, that run the call center, that run the technicians, that handle sales, that do quotes, that do like different departments as you start to grow, then your personal brand is not as important, right? But you can imagine, like, Kentucky Fried Chicken, when he first started, when Colonel Sanders started that business at 63 or something like that, originally it was him, right? It was the freaking Colonel in his kitchen making the fried chicken, right? When Gordon Ramsay started, it was like him as a chef. But then you build a reputation, and then your personal brand's not tied to it. So think of it as two overlapping circles, the Venn diagram.
Okay. Yeah.
There's your personal brand, there's the company brand, there's an intersection between the two. So you're producing content for both. And the beauty is when you can produce content that's at the intersection of those two, because a lot of people think that personal brand content needs to be like deeply personal about when your mom died and when you were broke, and like that's what self-help people do.
Yeah.
We're not trying to sell self-help. You can walk on the coals and like be inspired. We're not doing that. We're just trying to fix people's bug problems, right? So what you're trying to do is show your professional relationships. How do you think? There's so many ways where you can reveal that you are a professional. You can make little videos where in the back it shows like where you went to school and where you got a certification. You can show as you're training other team members. You go to an industry conference. I mean, is that a personal brand thing or is that a company thing? It's both, right? Because it shows that you care about standards. You care about your people. Like Sarah in the office is celebrating her 3rd anniversary, or somebody just had a baby or whatnot. You're celebrating those moments. Are those personal? Yes. But do they tie in with the company brand? They absolutely do, because they reflect on the values that you have. You probably, in your company break room, have this poster that says, these are our company values. Honesty, integrity, hard work, you know, telling the truth, whatever the things are. And so people will say, yeah. But what if you actually told little stories, and every one of those stories was just a minute, right? So instead of saying like, oh, we love our employees, then show a picture of, you know, hey, we brought out a cake, everyone come in, let's celebrate Janet's birthday. What's worth more, the HR poster on the side of the wall, or a real video that was not taken by a professional photographer, showing as Janet blows out the cake and makes a wish and everyone laughs and, you know, whatever, right?
Yeah. No, and I think it's important to note that I feel like we're more so emphasizing, you know, what Google wants, and they want to see connections between these entities. They want to see that we have photos and videos, you know, in the local area. But people also love this as well. Yeah. People love to see something like that where, you know, Jenna is blowing out the birthday candles, and it feels much more personal. Yeah. So for a business like Pest Control, people love to have a personal relationship with the business they're working with, because again, something like Pest Control, you know, maybe they're coming every month or so, they want a company they can trust. And a main thing that I've noticed in pest control is that is one of the main competitive advantages that you want to push on, because you are going against huge name brand companies like Orkin, Terminix. So how can you compete against these guys? You go ultra personal.
Well, think about this. If you call Terminix or Orkin or one of these huge companies, you're going to get some guy, some employee, right? And do they really care? I mean, you don't really know. But if you know that it's Jim that's coming over, and you've seen some pictures or stories of Jim, and you and Jim, you know, Jim's daughter also goes to the same high school. And you have, and let's say that you don't know anything about pest control. You don't know anything about the chemicals. You don't know anything about like who does a better job in pest control, but you've seen this other guy before, and he seems like a good guy because you go to the same church, or because you also believe, you know, you support the Kansas City Chiefs or whatever it is, right? If you have that, the most minuscule connection, who are you most likely going to choose?
Them,
So there was a study that was done where people had to choose a babysitter. And one babysitter was the one that they knew, family friend, they'd been doing it for a while, and the girl was not a great babysitter. She was like an okay babysitter, right? And then there's the professional babysitter with the fantastic resume and all that kind of stuff, sounds really good, but you don't know her, you've never worked with her before, but her reviews are great. Are you gonna take the family friend who's like, okay, or are you gonna take the stellar, really highly rated babysitter, but you don't know anything about this girl? Who are you gonna choose?
The girl that you know.
And you're gonna choose the one that's more familiar. And this is something, I'll tell you one story, and it's not pest control, but I'm sure you'll see how it relates. So I have a friend, Dr. David Verbally, and he's in Denver, Colorado, and he is one of the nation's leading cosmetic surgeons. And he teaches the cosmetic surgeons. I mean, the guy's got all the credentials. He's invented a lot of the technology around it. I mean, the guy is an absolute G in cosmetic surgery, okay? And we were running some ads for him. And the funny thing that we noted, because I said, so Dr. Verbally, how, you know, what's going on with the patients? I mean, are the ad campaigns working? And he said they are. But the reason why these women are coming in for, you know, if you're getting a boob job or you're getting, you know, fat sucked out of your butt, like that's surgery. That's actually real surgery. That's not just like cutting your hair. That's a real thing. You know, there's like anesthesia involved. And he said these women were coming in and they were choosing to work with him as their surgeon because he gave out a $1 lip gloss, or because they liked how he sounded. They liked how he looked. Like, would you choose a surgeon based on how they looked? But I mean, I guess if it's a plastic surgeon, okay, fine, right? You wouldn't choose an ugly plastic surgeon. But he was expressing frustration to me because he said, Dennis, I would have thought it would be like, they would look at my credentials, they'd look at when I went to school, they'd look at my health grades, patient reviews. Like, there's all these things where you can check up on whether that doctor is like a legit doctor or not, right? And he said it frustrates the heck out of me that people are making important life decisions without considering the criteria of whether that provider is actually any good. And so when it comes to pest control, which is not as life-threatening as choosing a surgeon, let me tell you something that might shock you if you are a pest control technician or you own a pest control business. These consumers, they don't care who's actually better. They don't care whose chemicals are better. They don't care. They just, whoever, if they do a Google search or whatever it is, or they look at the yellow pages or what, they see a list of 5 pest control companies, and one of them, they've seen something from that person, but it has nothing to do with pest control. And the other ones are just like random names. Who are they going to choose?
The one they've seen before.
People literally choose the one that is more familiar. So that's why billboards, branding, Super Bowl ads, like all that stuff works, because if you're looking, because it's not like people choose pest control companies all the time, right? It's like once in a while, you don't remember. Like you don't, like plumbers, do you know like who the main plumbers are in your city? You probably don't know, right? So if they look at that list of here's the plumbers or here's the air conditioning repair people or whatever, they literally, it makes no sense. They're going to choose the one that's more familiar. So if you do the stuff that Danny and I are talking about, and we know the people that are more familiar get clicked on, what did Google reveal 3 months ago to the DOJ in that lawsuit they had with Apple about how their search engine algorithm works? They revealed that they heavily take into account click signals, more than links, more than beautifully written copy and pictures and all the stuff that's on the website. The click signals matter more then all that. So if you build familiarity and trust, and that leads to more click signals, that's actually how you're driving your SEO. That's the thing millions of sites got tanked in the last month because of Google's core updates, and all these people are crying about this. None of our clients did, which is great. And these sites got penalized because they were doing things to try to trick Google instead of trying to do things for the user. Everything that we're talking about here is legit and it's good. It's not some trick, right? If you do stuff to make yourself more familiar, it's like crazy I even need to say this.
Yeah.
If you do stuff that makes you more familiar and more human, imagine an engineer needing to tell you this. Then people are more likely to click on your stuff, click on your YouTube video, click on the tweet that you have, click on your Facebook thing. Do you think Google takes that into account?
Yeah.
They absolutely do. And I proved it last week. I made a tweet, and then I Googled my name, and that tweet showed up instantly in the search results. Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, they take that. If Google can see it, if you can see it, if Google can see it, they're taking that into account.
Such a huge point. And like something as simple as you could even put out a picture, and if you just boost it to your area and people see that ad one time, maybe a few times, they're more likely to choose your company than, maybe these other random competitors in your area, just because they've seen you once before.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I've seen them on Facebook. Oh, maybe Joe mentioned them. Boom. That's all it takes to convert them. I think that's a huge point where, I see a lot of pest control companies like, oh, ours is the most eco-friendly, and we do twice as much product as these other companies. People don't care.
They don't, because it doesn't store in long-term memory, because it doesn't trigger an emotional response. The emotional response is what causes the long-term memory piece. The factual, analytical, logical, calculating stuff is separate from the emotional relationship, trust. It's like the reptilian brain versus the neocortex. You can go deep and learn about how this. I went deep in psychology, and I'll give you, without like trying to go into all these different studies, I'll give you one example. If you're married, for example, how did you meet that girlfriend or whoever that eventually became your wife? It was probably because of the proximity of they sat next to you in biology class, or they went to the same church, or you played volleyball together, or whatever it is. It was the proximity that came from having seen that person. So the familiarity of having repeat touches is what actually builds that trust. And all the studies will show, you can go in deep if you want to look at how it works, read Robert Cialdini and all that, and you'll see the studies show that when you breed familiarity through multiple touches, even on things that are completely unrelated to pest control or cosmetic surgery or whatever it is, it builds trust because of the way the limbic system and the human brain and all this works. So most people will say, oh, well, based on that, I should just spam, 20% off your, $39 a month for pest control insurance or whatever it is. That's not what it's saying. It's saying build touches that have a meaningful component, that have a relationship piece. So yes, you can send out coupons. Yes, we have a Black Friday sale. Yes, all of that. But if you build little touches that tell a story, that gets kicked in the long-term memory, and people are way more likely to remember the story, because human beings store things as stories in their brain, right? Look at how memory works, and it's reconstructive and it's story-driven. You don't have to understand the psychology to know that if you just put out lots of stories, and that gives you the frequency, then when it's time to take care of the ants, and when it's time to, because people have always had that issue with the ants or the roaches or whatever, but maybe not, now is not the right time. But when it is the right time, oh, it was, who was it that I was talking to, right? Carlton or whoever it was, right? That I remember him, right? I remember his car collection. I remember that. You're going to remember those details about that person that has nothing to do with pest control. But you're going to remember, like, oh, that guy does pest control? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely genius. I feel like almost no one in marketing is talking about this. And again, just to emphasize that this not only touches on SEO, but it also touches on what people want. People want to have relationships with you. They want to feel like they know your company and they can trust you. So absolutely love it. That was great there. Something I definitely wanted to touch on before we finish up is LSAs. Yeah. I know you love LSAs.
Oh yeah, we go on
local service
multiple
ads.
episodes just on LSAs.
Yeah. So LSAs, I've talked to several clients and prospects saying that LSAs aren't working, or maybe they cost too much money. Can you clear up some of the misconceptions with LSAs?
Here's the thing about LSA. LSA is an extension of your Google business profile. So if you have a new Google business profile, don't expect that if you put $1,000 a week on your LSA, it's going to start taking off. If your Google business profile, which I still call GMB, all of us that are old timers still call it GMB, has bad reviews, and you don't take care of your customers, and you haven't properly filled out your GMB, do you expect your LSA to be working too? LSA is automatically created ads. Google's automatically creating ads, also called Google Guaranteed or Google Verified because of the insurance thing and the certification. That's why not every category is an LSA. But Google is saying, look, so-and-so's pest control company, we guarantee at the very top, 5 stars and all that. And so you're going up against all the other people and the ratings they have. Because the ads are auto-generated from your GMB, you don't write ads in LSA. This is not regular Google AdWords, okay? Google AdWords, you can say stuff and configure ads. LSA, you don't get the right ads. You basically configure your LSA and your budget and service areas. Like there's not much you can do inside LSA, okay? So if you don't have many good reviews, then the other LSA guys will get the clicks. And whoever gets the most clicks, that result in phone calls that are marked as leads within 24 hours ideally, as actual leads, will continue to get more. So this is a rich get richer kind of game. And if the other people who are very good about answering the phone, and I'll tell you all the time with home service businesses, they tell me, oh yeah, we answer the phone all the time. And then we put a call tracking number through CallRail in there, and we find they don't answer the phone right away, or they don't answer it promptly. Joe's Pest Control, how can I help you? Instead it's like, yeah, what's up? Don't answer the phone like that. I can't tell you how many times we've gone in and looked at the call recordings like, yeah, hello? Oh, I'm sorry, did I wake you up or something? Right? That's not a professional way to answer the phone. You have to have a standard way to answer the phone, and you might think your technicians or your front desk person or whoever, your CSR, maybe you have a whole team of CSRs, you might think they're answering the phone, but you need to come in and listen to those calls, and you might be surprised. But with LSA, if you have a good reputation, especially a lot of reviews in the last 90 days, because other people will say oh, but I have 400 reviews and the other guy has only 150. Yeah, but how many have you had in the last 90 days? And what quality are they? Are they fake reviews? Are they good reviews from high-level reviewers with pictures and photos, that kind of thing? Good reviews, answer the phone, mark the leads, set an appropriate budget that doesn't flood the market, so you can increase the budget. Don't just come in and say $2,000 a week from nothing, because it'll stall out. Like a lot of people think, oh, I'll just set up a budget really high. And no, don't do that. But if you do all these basic things, then Google will, it takes about a week or two, will start to give you a few calls, right? And the same thing is true with organic, which is the same thing to do with LSA. They give you a few calls. Then if you start disputing all their calls, then they're not going to want to give you any more calls. Now, I'm not saying don't dispute any calls, but if you dispute, put a proper reason, right? Well, we don't serve that, it was a wrong number, or it was that's what you have to fill in your Google Business Profile, configure your services, make sure your Google Business Profile has everything, most people don't even have enough pictures or images. They just have so little information about what they do. So of course, people are going to call about some random thing that they don't do, right? Oh, well, we don't do commercial. Well, why don't you say there that you don't do commercial, right? Oh, we don't only do residential, or we don't handle aardvarks, or we don't handle bees. I don't know, whatever it is that you do or don't do, right? You need to be super clear about that. Otherwise, it's your fault if Google gives you those leads. Because as you start to market things like, oh, we don't do bees. Okay, adjust in the profile, and Google, their system starts to learn. Now, if all those things are done, and it's still not working, then there's 2 key things I see that in the last year have really helped people. One is, if your LSA account is more than 3 years old, you need to create a new LSA account. You know why? Because it's like this old version, and the old version, you just need to throw away the old one. You just have to start with a new one, okay? Because it creates they've not been able to migrate everyone over, so it's sort of like a dirty little secret. You have to make a new LSA. The second one is if you've gotten a lot of leads and all of a sudden it's fallen down and it's not seasonality, in the last 6 months, there's been a lot of LSA spam. And largely in home services, it's a few of these companies that appear to be out of Israel. And what they've done is set up call centers under fake LSAs that they tie to local landmarks, like a park or a church or something that's got a lot of reviews. Like the local park will have like 3,000 reviews, and they'll tie that to the LSA. And then when they drive the leads, which will go to some call center, because you can tell because you're talking to someone who's like got an accent. And I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not being racist or whatever, but they're not in the States. You can tell it's a call center. And they'll say, oh yeah, we'll send someone out right away. And then that someone else is not from the company you saw in the ad. And they try to bait and switch you and sell you on this super overpriced service. And you find out that it was just a scam where there's lead gen companies. Like if you Google LSA scam Dennis Yu, you'll see a whole write-up in Search Engine Land where me and Ben Fisher and whatever explained exactly how the scam works. But basically, there's tons of lead gen companies that, especially in home services, they're doing it in lawyers. They moved into dental now recently. I don't know if you've probably seen a lot of this. And what they've done is they're holding companies that used to be doing well in LSA hostage by saying, we have all the LSA leads now, and now you're gonna have to pay us. They're like this mafia extortion kind of thing. And a lot of home service businesses have come to me saying, what do I do? They're trying to extort me, and my LSA has dried up. Should I pay them? Or because I can't afford to not have LSA, because LSA, as you know, is usually your number one performer, right? So we've told this to Google multiple times, and with that, you just have to report them to Google. And eventually, if all of us get together and keep reporting this to Google, then in our market, for maybe it's like pest control in Houston or whatever it is, Google will fix it, but they're very slow to fix it. You have to like make noise for Google, as far as we know, at least in the last 20 years. In order to get Google to fix those problems, you have to make noise. You can't just call the rep. You can't just assume that they're going to fix it. If there's spam like that, they only respond when we say something about it.
Something else I wanted to clear up that maybe people might be questioning of is, do you need an LSA for every single Google business profile that you have?
No, you don't. But, why not, right? Because you're going to get leads in proportion to how strong the GMBs are. So maybe you have like 5 GMBs, but you have one main one. Well, that's where you're going to put most of your effort in, right? It really is an 80-20 thing.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else on LSAs that people should know?
LSA is something that you have to own. And Google has set it up so that like the claiming of LSAs and the management of LSAs needs to be done by like whoever's answering the phone, so you mark those leads right away and all that. What I have seen, which surprises the heck out of me, 2 days ago I saw an agency that was holding the client hostage by somehow having primary ownership on the LSA account and not wanting to hand it over to the client. And they were milking them for $12,000 a month as the agency fee, which I have no problem with $12,000 a month if they're really delivering value. This is a $15 million a year plumbing HVAC company, which is $12,000 a month is nothing for them. But they were being held hostage. So I was surprised because almost all the time I see that companies now, the home service companies know that they need to own the LSA. They need to own the Google Ads account. They got to own the Facebook Business Manager. They got to own the website. They got to own all these other components. But yeah, if you don't own your LSA, if you don't have admin over everything, if you don't know what the performance is, if you are being sent to some third-party reporting interface instead of actually logging in, that's a problem.
Yeah. And what kind of results should people look for in LSA? So let's say particularly pest control, what should they look to be spending like per call?
Google will say it varies based on the city and based on the market that you're in, but generally $50 to $80. It's what it should cost per call. I've seen some people claim to get it down to $30 to $35. I think that will work in more like suburban areas or where the budget is low. But if you want to max out LSA, and let's say you're getting 10 calls a week for $35. Well, you'll say this is awesome because I know for a $35 call, then my cost per appointment is about $50 and my cost per new customer is $65 to $70, right? So I'm happy to get new customers at $70 all day long because the average customer value, depending on whether you're selling insurance on that or not, is $500 to $1,000. So that's worth doing because I want to keep my ratio like 1 to 7 or 1 to 10. It's like 700% ROA. So spend $1, get back 7. Spend $1, get back 10. Right? As long as that math is holding true, I want to spend more money. So if you're getting calls at $35, you're going to say, turn the knob. I'm willing to pay $50 a call. I'm willing to pay $60 a call. So then you get way more volume, but then your cost per call goes up, which is what happens. It's a supply and demand curve. So anyone who's saying, yeah, I'm getting calls at $30, I'll say, you're not spending enough. You could get twice as many calls, but you got to be willing to pay a little more. Unless you suck so bad at closing, or your prices are too low, or you just somehow can't make it profitable at $35 a call, which means you're not good at what you do.
Definitely. And last thing I wanted to ask you, what do you think about other advertising platforms like, Yelp, Nextdoor, Angie? Do you think these platforms have any significance? Should companies try to use them?
But like Yelp is the one people like to complain the most about in terms of lead quality because they're pushed by salespeople. All of these other platforms, I've seen it work with Angie and Nextdoor. Maybe the lead quality is not as good as what you're going to get on LSA. I like to try all of them, but here's what I say. Start with LSA first. Make sure everything's working with LSA, SEO, Facebook ads, then move to Angie and Yelp and all the other third party. Then move to like Bing, right? Because they run ads too, which is Microsoft, right? But always start with Facebook and Google. Like nail Facebook and Google before exploring TikTok or all this other stuff, right? And with Google, start with LSA. If you're in pest control, which is one of the top LSA categories, or anywhere in home services, just milk the most you can out of LSA first, then, because you can get that immediately. Then move to optimizing your SEO off of your GMB, then move to tweaking your website, then move to like the social proof stuff that we talked about earlier, then move to third-party platforms like Facebook ads and Twitter and all that, right?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that was super valuable, Dennis. I learned a lot this podcast. I hope you did too. And is there anything you would like to leave the people off with? Anything they should know?
So I think if you're a pest control company, you would be an idiot to not talk to Danny. And last I checked, and maybe if you're still watching this, it's still true, Danny is offering free audits. These audits should cost $500. And if Danny's offering this for free, and it's not a sales pitch, but it's there to actually look at your presence and look at your analytics and look at how your ads are performing and look at all these things and questions that you have, or maybe you're not really clear about whether the agency's performing or not. Or maybe your in-house person needs a little bit of help because they need a little bit of training, right? You just need to check up now and then you should talk to Danny because it doesn't hurt to have a third party come in and audit. And if you ask for me, I'll probably come along too because I want to see Danny win.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dennis. Yes, you can book an audit in the description below. So that link will be at the bottom of the description. Should be in the comment section below as well. So yeah, free audits for now. Probably going to be the next month or so, and then start going $100, $200 from there. So yeah, get the free audit while you can. Again, no pressure. This is just to help out your company. We want to see you win, and we want you to own your own marketing. So yeah, super grateful to have you on, Dennis. Awesome. Again, another great podcast, and so glad to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome, man. Yeah. And I'd love to hear what you guys think. You got questions or whatnot? I know you're like watching this through a video screen, but we are here as real people. This is not an AI, even though you can't tell whether it's AI or not, but I promise you it's real. We are actually here, but we're here to create a standard, and we're here to help home service businesses win. So thank you so much for your time if you made it this far.
Awesome. Yeah, I read all the comments, so I will reply to anything you want to let me know in the comments below. So any questions, any comments, would love to read them and reply to them. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been the Pest Control SEO Podcast, and I will see you next week. Bye.
All right.
Awesome. That was a good one.
We got the video off of it.